Bible stories in this VBS are about people who needed Jesus' help to turn about. No matter what difficulties we face, Jesus can help us to overcome them and turn about to head in the right direction.
A lot of people we fed a lot of people, didn't we?
Oh yeah. So much bread. So many fish.
It had been a busy day. Jesus and his disciples had miraculously fed 5,000 people with only 5 loaves of bread and 2 fish. They were all very tired, and Jesus needed some time alone so that he could pray to his Father in heaven.
Peter, I want you to take the others into the boat. Go to the other side of the sea so that I can have a little time to pray, okay?
Yes, Lord.
It looks like some storm clouds are coming. Oh, Andrew, it's just a little cloud. Don't be such a chicken. Oh! Quick! There's a storm. The boat's gonna start filling up with water. Get it out or we're gonna sink.
I don't think this little boat's gonna handle this storm.
Just a little cloud, huh? I wish Jesus was with us. I'd feel a lot better. We've been out here for hours. I think he forgot about us. No.
Do y'all see what I think I just saw?
I see something. Looks like it's moving across the water, but I don't know what it is. I don't know if they are, but I think it's a ghost, and we should get out of here.
Oh, wait a second. I don't think that looks like it can't be, is it?
Be of good cheer. It is I. Do not be afraid.
Jesus, if that's really you, command me to come to you out in that water.
Come.
It's water. Whoa! He's stepping on water. He's walking. Oh! He fell. Is he dead? Where did he go?
Here I am, Peter. Take my hand.
Oh, Jesus, hold on to me. Don't let me go. Don't ever let me go. Oh, get back in the boat.
You have little faith. Why did you doubt?
Truly you are the Son of God. You are. Wind and the waves obey you.
Fear is an emotion we all face from time to time. Fear can be good when we fear the right things, but if our fear turns into terror, we can lose our ability to reason and make good choices. Then, when we put our faith in God, he can help us turn about from terrified to trusting.
Okay. Hey, how's it going? Hi, Chavita. If we could, maybe, Leslie, do you think you can close these doors right here so that the kids don't get distracted when they're walking through the hallway and I'm yelling at you guys? We're going to be in Matthew chapter 14. If you want to start turning there to Matthew chapter 14. How about that skit, huh? Whoever Peter was, I don't know who that was, but whoever that was, he really stole the show. It felt real. I was telling them back there, I was messing around saying, I can't even tell anymore. I don't even know if I'm Marco or I'm Peter. I'm just so into this character now. Matthew chapter 14. And I say that also because in a very real way, I'm a lot like Peter in real life. I'm a lot like Peter. Matthew chapter 14. So last night, we were talking about John chapter 5, the pool of Bethesda, and how Jesus was dealing with legalism from the Jews. They were mad that he healed a man who had been lame for 38 years. Imagine, for 38 years you're lame, Jesus heals you, and everybody around you gets mad. And then in Matthew chapter 14, and this is one of the amazing things about Jesus' ministry, and this is the amazing thing about ministry in general. It's not, you're not only going to have problems from people that don't, you're not just going to have problems from non-Christians. You're going to get problems from Christians too. And maybe you could say a lot or most of Jesus's concern, stress, focus was on the people that were actually trying to follow him. He was trying to bring people to the kingdom, yes, but as far as his disciples go, I mean, he is confronted with just as much false ideas, just as much personal failures, personality issues in his disciples as he is with the people that are around him. You have in the world, in the world with the Jews and the Pharisees and the Sadducees, Jesus goes and he eats with sinners, and how do they feel about that? They're mad, right? When Jesus goes and he sits and he eats with sinners, and they go, how could he do something like that? Or how could he go to Zacchaeus' house? And that's what's going to be dealt with tomorrow. I don't want to spoil it for you, but that's what they're going to deal with tomorrow. Why would he go to the house of someone like Zacchaeus? And then you look at his own disciples and you go, well, at least his disciples don't feel that way. And then in passage after passage after passage, they're telling Jesus things like, who's going to be the greatest? Can I sit down on your right hand and then he sits down at your left hand, one day when you come in your kingdom? And so then they want to be the greatest. They're valuing their status over their relationship with God, all of that. So now in Matthew chapter 14, what I want to focus on tonight is I want to focus on Peter walking on the water, Jesus walking on the water to them, yes, but the context of this is actually really amazing to think about. It's a really crazy time in Jesus' life. Have you ever been so busy that it just seems like everything is just one thing after another? Have you ever had so many problems that it just feels like it's one problem after another after another? It just never stops. I've been having a couple days like that, but some of it is ministry, some of it is just life stuff. My car broke down, and I've been dealing with that. And yesterday was maybe one of the most hectic days because it was just one problem after another, trying to get stuff taken care of. And today was less so. But when you have days like that, what does that do to you when you're just going from one problem to the next? And it's like multiple problems in a day. What does that do to your spirit? What does that do to you internally? How would you describe how that makes you feel sometimes? It brings you down? Yeah? Frustrated? It drains you? Yeah, yes? Yeah, it zaps all your energy. It drains you. You feel like, people say sometimes, I'm running on fumes, right? Running on fumes. What else? Okay, so maybe you might feel alone, or maybe your fuse gets really short and anything can set you off. Have you ever had someone snap at you or lash out at you, And then after a little while, they go, I'm sorry, I had a really bad day. That happens a lot. And maybe you might say something like, well, I didn't do that to you, you know? So maybe be nice or something like that. What else? What does that do to you when you're just going from one problem to the next or one situation to the next, and there's not even enough time for you to just catch your breath for a second? How does that make you feel? Yes, that is how it makes you feel. Jesus is definitely going through this, yes? Okay, yeah, so sometimes I feel defeated. I'm not just tired. How am I ever going to be able to get ahead in life when this is how things are? I remember, I've felt that many times in my life, but I remember when Melania was first born, we become parents, and in the first week of Melania's life, I thought to myself, I don't know how I'm ever going to get anything done ever again. Because the first week of a baby, they're awake all the time, and they're crying, and Maggie just gave birth, and so I'm helping a lot more than I would later on, and it's just hands-on. You're in survival mode, and I remember in that first week thinking, I don't know if I'm ever going to be able to just live a normal life ever again. It was just so much, and I remember thinking, just feeling like that. I hope it gets better. People say it's going to get better, but right now I just feel like I can't do it. I knew that I could do it, but what I mean is I can't do all the other stuff that I normally do. And when Mayla was born, it was maybe a day of feeling that way. Maybe for a day I felt that way, and then it got a lot easier. Matthew chapter 14. So all the way towards the end of the chapter, starting off in verse number 22, Jesus walks on the water when there's the storm. But look at what happens right before that, the feeding of the 5,000. Matthew 14, verse number 13. When Jesus heard it, he departed from there by boat to a deserted place by himself. But when the multitudes heard it, they followed him on foot from the cities. And when Jesus went out, he saw a great multitude, and he was moved with compassion for them and healed their sick. So you notice that. Jesus, he leaves, and then they chase him, basically. They chase him over to where he was. Look at verse number 34. When they had crossed over, they came to the land of Gennesaret. And when the men of that place recognized him, they sent out into all that surrounding region, brought to him all who were sick, and begged him that they might only touch the hem of his garment, and as many as touched it were made perfectly well. So then after Jesus walks on the water, they go to another place, and he's getting chased there, and people are flocking to him there too. So the feeding of the 5,000, he leaves, people chase him, he sees all of them, he feels compassion, so he feeds them. Now this is Jesus doing this in a normal stage of his life or in a difficult stage of his life. Let's find out. Look at chapter 14. Look at chapter 14. At that time, Herod the Tetrarch, verse number 1, heard the report about Jesus and said to his servants, "This is John the Baptist. He is risen from the dead, and therefore these powers are at work in him." For Herod had laid hold of John and bound him and put him in prison for the sake of Herodias, his brother Philip's wife. And then skip down to verse number 7. He promised with an oath to give her whatever she might ask. So she, having been prompted by her mother, said, "Give me John the Baptist's head here on a platter." And the king was sorry. Nevertheless, because of the oaths and because of those who sat with him, he commanded it to be given to her. So he sent and had John beheaded in prison. And his head was brought on a platter and given to the girl, and she brought it to her mother. Then his disciples came and took away the body and buried it, and went and told Jesus. And then we get to that verse that we just read in verse number 13. When Jesus heard it, he departed from there by a boat to a deserted place by himself. But when the multitudes heard it, they followed him on foot from the cities. So at first I read the verse with no context, and then I wanted us to read it with a context. Jesus isn't just moving on to the next thing. Jesus is trying to find some time alone to process the deep agony and grief that he feels about the beheading of his cousin. This isn't just Jesus going, life is busy. No, this is my cousin was just brutally murdered. My cousin was brutally murdered because of the choices that he made to tell people about me. That was John the Baptist's life That was his purpose, to prepare the way for Jesus. And so imagine how that must feel. In a real way, your cousin just got brutally murdered because of you. And Jesus is dealing with this grief. He hears about it and he leaves. And these people who don't know, they chase him, they follow him, and they flock to him. So Jesus is processing this grief. How would you feel in that situation? And then Jesus is having problem with, he's dealing with leadership kind of situations. He had just sent out the disciples earlier on. You read this in Matthew chapter 12. In the limited commission, they just come back from their first mission trip, let's call it. The crowds are becoming bigger and bigger, harder to lead the crowds. He's trying to teach them to the best of his ability, the disciples. And so Jesus starts to make some decisions. Today is my dad's birthday. My dad passed away. It's going to be 6 years ago this year. Passed away in July, so a month after his birthday. And so I've been thinking a lot about my dad today. And, when he passed away, I'm the kind of person that I like to be alone for a while. When I'm really going through something, one of the first things I want to do is just be alone. I don't like it, and maybe for those of you that are members at Seagoville, I don't get upset about it, but if I'm really going through something, I'm not a big fan of all the questions. People ask you a million questions, and you feel like you're being interrogated. I really, for a little while at least, I'll deal with the questions later, but at least in the beginning, I'm the type of person, I kind of just want to process it on my own, and then I'll go into that part. Then I'll talk about it later when I've had a chance to think about it. Sometimes people want that, and we kind of treat them the way, and again, we don't know what we're doing, we don't think about it, but we kind of treat them the way this happened after John Lennon was shot. They go up to Paul McCartney, and there's all these cameras in his face, all these microphones, and they're asking him, how do you feel? How do you feel? He just found out like seconds before one of his closest lifelong friends is dead. And I remember, if you go watch that video, you can kind of see the pain, the frustration in his face. He doesn't want to be in that situation. And I sympathize with that a lot. I like to be on my own. I like to process it on my own. And Jesus is in this kind of a situation where, my dad passed away. He had an illness and he passed away. Jesus' cousin passed away because of him, because of his ministry for Jesus. And so this is a really unique kind of grief that Jesus is dealing with. And how does he react? How does he react? What does he do? What is his mindset? I'm going to make reference to some of the parallel accounts in Matthew, in Mark, and John as well. We're not going to turn to all of these, but in all of the hustle and the bustle, all of the things that Jesus is doing, even after this happens in the feeding of the 5,000, what does Jesus want to do when this is over? Again, verse number 22. This is his second try. Immediately Jesus made his disciples get into the boat and go before him to the other side while he sent the multitudes away. So he sends away the crowds. He sends away the disciples. And verse number 23, when he had sent the multitudes away, he went up on the mountain by himself to pray. Now, when evening came, he was alone there. If you read in Mark chapter 1, Mark gets right into Jesus' ministry. That's exactly where Mark starts, at the beginning of Jesus' ministry, basically. A little bit of John the Baptist, then Jesus' ministry. And the first thing you see in Mark chapter 1 is Jesus is getting mobbed by people in Jesus' ministry. And he wakes up early in the morning before everyone else, and he goes to a mountain by himself to pray. So this was a custom that Jesus had. This is something that Jesus liked to do. And it's so funny. This is just a pattern of Jesus' life and his ministry specifically. In Mark chapter 1, verse number 35 or so, Jesus goes out to the mountain to pray, and his disciples find him. And they go, hey, what are you doing here? Everyone's looking for you. I hear this happens to Maggie, and I've heard lots of mothers say this, where they go, when your kids are really little, you just can't seem to get away from them at all, even when you want to go to the restroom. Poor Maggie, that's her life. Right now, Melania is so attached to Maggie, and some of you have seen this. It's like she believes that in order to love her mom, she has to despise me. Like, that's true love. I need to hate the other guy that lives in this house. That way I can truly love my mom. Right now, she rejects me constantly. Everything I do, she's not a fan of it right now. She loves her mom that much. And so mothers, sometimes they feel what? Like they're drowning, right? It's a blessing, but you could also feel like you're drowning too. And Jesus, in a ministry way, is experiencing this kind of thing. He's just trying to spend some time with God, and they're drowning him with, hey, come here, we need this, we want this, we need this, we want this. And so this has been happening in Jesus' life, and it happens again, but this time during a time of grief. And you might say, well, maybe Jesus will yell at them, maybe Jesus will lash out at them. No. Jesus, once again, he goes by himself now, and then he sees that they get in trouble, verse 24. And what does Jesus do? He goes to them, and look at verse number 25. Now in the fourth watch of the night, Jesus went to them walking on the sea. And when the disciples saw him walking on the sea, they were troubled, saying, "It is a ghost." And they cried out for fear. But immediately Jesus spoke to them, saying, "Be of good cheer, it is I, do not be afraid." And Peter answered him and said, "Lord, if it is you, command me to come to you on the water. So he said, "Come." And when Peter had come down out of the boat, he walked on the water to go to Jesus. But when he saw that the wind was boisterous, he was afraid, and beginning to sink, he cried out, saying, "Lord, save me." So let's stop here for a second. I want to hear what you have to say about this. Jesus is going through so much right now. Jesus is so busy, he's heartbroken, and he just wants some time to spend with God at night. This is not Jesus saying, you know what, I'll do a quick prayer, I'll go to sleep, and then when I wake up, I'll pray some more, and that way I've been rested. No, Jesus is sacrificing his sleep just to pray and process his grief to his Father. And then the disciples get in trouble, and then he goes, why is Jesus entertaining this situation with Peter? Why does he go down to where they are? Why does he walk on the water? Why does he entertain Peter's idea, let me walk to you on the water? And he says, okay, fine, walk to me on the water. We're in Matthew chapter 14. Why does he do that? What do you think? Why would Jesus even play this game or entertain this situation? Why doesn't he just from afar calm the storm and get back to doing what he's doing? What do you think? Because if it were me, I see them in trouble, I calm the storm, now I can just go back to worrying about myself. That's what I would do. What do you think? Okay, so Peter found out something about himself during that process? Yeah, so Jesus... Mm-hmm. Okay, so he did it to teach them something. But I mean, Jesus is teaching them all the time. Does he really have to do this one too? And again, I kind of do that sometimes when I'm really stressed out, I'm busy. I go, I already do a lot. Do I really need to do this also? What do you think? Why would Jesus do this? Why is he playing into this? When Peter says, Lord, if it's you, command me to come to you on the water, Jesus says, look, I'm standing on the water. What more do you want? I'm about to calm the storm. What more do you want? Why are we doing this? Again, that's what I want to do. That's what I want to say in this situation. Why do you think Jesus is doing this? If we can try to get into his mind. Okay, so he came here to teach us. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. So, yeah, Jesus is acting on his compassion for the multitudes, for his disciples. He sees them and he doesn't want to just solve problems for them. He wants to make them into problem-solving people. That's a big reason why Jesus is doing what he's doing. Any other thoughts? By the way, I forgot to mention this detail. If you look at chapter 13, verse number 53. Now it came to pass when Jesus had finished these parables, so he's been teaching about hell and heaven, that he departed from there. When he had come to his own country, he taught them in their synagogue, so that they were astonished and said, "Where did this man get this wisdom and these mighty works? Is this not the carpenter's son? Is not his mother called Mary, and his brothers James, Joseph, Simon, and Judas? And his sisters, are they not all with us? Where then did this man get all these things?" So they were what? Offended at him. But Jesus said to them, "A prophet is not without honor except in his own country and in his own house." Now he did not do many mighty works there because of their unbelief. So Jesus goes to his hometown, and they don't respect him there. They're offended. Who do you think you're talking to is basically what they say. They saw a little child, Jesus, running around, and they didn't have the respect for him that people that didn't watch him grow up have. Just today, Kobe, one of the kids in the youth group, he sends me a text message. He's getting some work and stuff like that, and he spoke to my brother-in-law today. And one thing you guys don't know is all of my family, my biological family from out there in California, they all don't call me Marco, which is my name. They call me Mark. My whole life, they've always called me Mark. And so today, Kobe goes, "Hey, your brother-in-law called you Mark. Like he messed up or something, you know?" And I told him, "No, all my family calls me Mark." And Kobe thought that was funny for some reason, that all my family calls me Mark. But my family, out of everyone in the world, they view me the most informally, and I don't mean this in a bad way. They give me the least amount of respect of anyone that I know, because they're my family. They've seen me in some embarrassing situations. They've seen me as a little child, right? They've seen me do all kinds of crazy stuff. They don't see me the way you guys see me. There have been a couple times where some of you have seen me without gel in my hair. And you go, "Wow, I can't believe you're not wearing gel. That's crazy." I look like a different person when I don't have gel in my hair, if I'm not wearing a hat. But I kid you not. There have been several people from here who have somehow seen me without gel in my hair, and they go, "You look so different without gel in your hair." My family has seen me more without gel in my hair than they have with gel in my hair. And so when I talk to them, they hear it differently than when I talk to you. They hear it differently. Now, in Jesus' situation, Jesus is presenting himself as the Messiah, the Son of God, and they basically just go, "Come on, you're Jesus. What are you talking? You're little Nazareth Jesus. That's all you are. Don't be silly." And again, remember, Nazareth had the reputation of nothing special about you, about me, about any of us, right? We're just this random little town. That's all we are. That's all we're ever going to be. So Jesus is experiencing rejection. He's going through grief, chapter 14. He wants to be alone. They're chasing him down. He's being smothered by people. And he's being smothered by people, by the way, who, if you read in John chapter 6, Jesus tells them, "I know that a lot of you are only here because you're hungry." A lot of you. He tells them exactly this. You're only here because you want food. If it wasn't for the food, you wouldn't have stayed. And then he tells them, "I am the bread of life." He also tells them in that passage, "Do not labor for food that perishes, but labor for the food that endures to eternal life," in John chapter 6 as well. Then he says, "I'm the bread of life." So work for my cause. Don't walk and don't take steps and don't live your life based off of where the food is. Live your life based off of where I am. And so Jesus is feeding people that he knows a huge amount of them are not real followers. They just want food. And he still feeds them. Why would Jesus still feed them? What do you think? So now we talked about why would Jesus entertain Peter's little thing? Why is he doing this now? Jesus knows that a lot of them are just taking advantage of his miraculous ability, and still he uses it and he gives them food. Why would he do that? I wouldn't feel inclined to do that. Okay, so the rain falls on the just and the unjust, Matthew 5:45. Jesus basically says, "I'm here to bless, I'll bless everybody, even the ones who are trying to take advantage of this. But also, one day, I'm going to be killed, I'll be crucified, and I will rise again. and these people are going to remember who I was and what I did. In fact, in Acts chapter 2, on the day of Pentecost, they're preaching. One of the things they say is, you all saw the miracles that Jesus did, so you can't deny that he is who he said he was. You can't deny that. You know that he is the Messiah. You know that he's the Lord. You know that he's the Christ. You saw what he did. So in a very real way, Jesus was kind of planting seeds or investing in the future of what's going to happen and saying, if I plant these seeds right now and establish who I am to them, later on when they're ready to hear it, later on when they've had enough reason to be interested in following me, they'll have all the reason that they need. They'll have all the evidence that they need. Sometimes we only want to focus on the people that we think are really good prospects, right? This person is really going to be receptive to this. This person is really going to appreciate it. Jesus goes, I don't care if they don't appreciate it. One day they might. One day they might. So I'm going to give them something to appreciate one day. They might not appreciate it now, but one day they will, hopefully. Many of them will. And it will be because of what I did all the way back then, investing in the future. A lot of the time, we are so short term, we don't invest in the future in other people's lives. We just go, are they going to be happy if I do this right now? No. Why am I going to do it? Are they going to say thank you right now? No. Why am I going to do it? Am I going to see the results today, tomorrow, the next day? No. I'm not going to do it then. I'll spend my time somewhere else. And typically when we say I'll spend my time somewhere better, we're not spending our time somewhere better. We're just not doing anything at all. We're just not doing anything at all. What else? What do you think? Why is Jesus doing this? Why is he feeding the 5,000? Knowing that so many of them are just taking advantage of the situation.
I think sometimes he would be doing things not for that person, but for those that were watching him. In other words, doing good, for not necessarily for the person being helped, but for those that were watching him help those people. And we should do that in our own lives. Sometimes we do good, not necessarily to help that person. They may not appreciate it, but hopefully your kids or someone, you're trying to help regardless. And that makes an impression on someone that maybe is not even intended to help.
Yeah. So Leslie's point is, it's about the example that's being set, right? That's also a big factor. Have you ever seen someone do a great thing for somebody else, and that just inspired you? They didn't even do it to you. They didn't even do it for you. And you go, wow, I just discovered something new. I want to aspire to that now. And you weren't even involved in that situation. You just saw it, and it inspired you to want to aspire to something greater in your life as a servant of God. Yeah, absolutely. Jesus is, and that kind of ties into what you were just saying, that Jesus is doing this, and he's feeding these people who are not even real followers and not truly interested, but everyone is seeing the evidence, which is the purpose of miracles. It's this guy, this man, he's unlike any other. Last night we finished off talking about that what the Pharisees, what the Jews, when they saw Jesus heal that man at the pool of Bethesda in John chapter 5, they should have seen that and said, whoa, he is unlike any other. And instead they were focused on the wrong thing. Because the whole purpose of miracles is not just to do some nice stuff for people. It is so that people can see that that Jesus is unlike any other. Or let's say it's the Apostle Paul doing the miracle. The words that he is preaching must be the words of God, because he is doing things only God can do. In John chapter 3, Nicodemus comes to Jesus by night, and this is what he says: Rabbi, I know that you are a teacher who comes from God, for no one can do the things that you do unless God is with him. So I know that you are the teacher because you're doing things only God can do. So therefore, if God is doing things through you, surely he's also speaking through you, which is exactly, again, what miracles were meant to do. It wasn't just meant to be some kind of a party trick or something like that. Yes, Melissa? That's an awesome point. The very last thing Melissa said is, Jesus knows he's going to go to the cross for these people. So what is giving them a little bit of food going to do? What's that going to hurt? He's about to be crucified for them. Surely giving them, and by the way, he's going to be crucified for the whole world, and that's a world full of mostly ungrateful people who don't even care what he's doing it and who he's doing it for. So he's going to do stuff that is going to be unappreciated by even more people later. So what's feeding 5,000 people, and let's say 4,000 of them are ungrateful? Big deal. And in fact, Mark 2:17, Jesus says that he is the great physician. I did not come to call the righteous, but sinners to repentance. Why did he come to this earth? He came for the ungrateful people. He came for the people that wanted to use him. That was his emphasis. Sometimes we go, I'm not going to do this nice thing for this person. I'm not going to serve them in this way because I think they'll be ungrateful. Jesus sends us to the ungrateful people. I think they might try to abuse of my generosity. Jesus sends us to those people who want to do a wrong thing like that, like abuse of our generosity. If we're not going to have any contact with them, who's going to have contact with them? Not Christians? And then what's going to happen to those people? If we want them to stop abusing of others' generosity, then us getting away from them is going to be the worst thing we could do for them, and a very un-Christ-like thing to do for them. Melissa? Yes. It's not Seagoville, but once I was hired as a minister at a church, and the church had another preacher interview for that job as well, and I won because I'm the best preacher ever, of course. No. But they hired me instead of this other guy, and I honestly thought they would hire the other guy. I thought that guy's a better preacher than me. I don't know what they were thinking. But when they hired me, there was a guy that said, hey, I just want you to know I'll be here for 1 more week, 2 more weeks, but after that I'm leaving. And I said, why? I don't want you to be our preacher. I wanted the other guy to be our preacher. I thought, oh, thanks. Cool. But he told me that. And so the next Sunday, it's very weird to go up there and preach when someone says, I don't want you to be my preacher. I don't want to hear you preach. I wish you weren't standing up there, and I wish it was somebody else. It's weird to go up there and preach to that guy, but hey, that guy needed to be preached to. He did. He needed to hear God's word. It was a crazy mindset that he had, and but that was his mindset. And again, what would be the right thing for me to do in that situation? And go, well, he doesn't want to hear me, so I guess I better not preach. No, I'm here to do that, right? And he hasn't been the only guy that said, I don't want to hear you preach. And I go, well, what am I supposed to do? That's what I'm here to do. And so sometimes it's going to happen. Sometimes people are going to say, I don't care about the significance of what you're doing. Well, okay, you don't have to care. I'll care for the both of us. That's the beauty of Jesus' ministry, is he does ministry for all these people, and so many of them don't care. They don't appreciate it. They don't understand it. Even his own disciples don't understand so much of what he's doing. And Jesus goes, don't worry. I understand. I care. And one day you'll understand and you'll care too. When we talk about that word investing in the future, or that phrase investing in the future, that's exactly what ministry is. You're doing things now to plant seeds or to invest in the future, in your life and the life of the people that you're serving. Things will be better later based on what we are doing now. That's what ministry is about. So let's get to the last part of this before we're done here. And in case I forget, there's snacks over there. I didn't tell everyone yesterday. There's snacks over there, and you guys can have some of them. Just don't eat all of them, because I want snacks too. The very end, verse number 27. But immediately Jesus spoke to them, saying, be of good cheer. It is I. Do not be afraid. Peter answered him and said, Lord, if it is you, command me to come to you on the water. So he said, come. And when Peter had come down out of the boat, he walked on the water to go to Jesus. But when he saw that the wind was boisterous, he was afraid, and beginning to sink, he cried out, saying, Lord, save me. And immediately Jesus stretched out his hand and caught him and said to him, O you of little faith, why did you doubt? Okay. I've had this thought before, and maybe you've had this thought too. I don't understand Peter in this passage. You ask Jesus to give you the power to walk on water. He gives you the power to walk on water. You start walking on water, so it's real, and then you get scared and you fall. That makes no, I was having this thought before, that makes no sense to me. You got exactly what you asked for, and then you just went back on it and you were terrified, and then you start sinking in the water. I've had that thought before, but then I had this thought. I have been in difficult situations in my life where I go, Jesus, guide me into doing what you want me to do. And I have a pretty clear idea of what Jesus wants me to do. And I start doing that, and then maybe the situation changes a little bit. Maybe it gets a little bit more complicated, a little bit more scary. And I go, okay, never mind. And then I start sinking. I've done that for less scary things than walking on the water in a storm. I've done that for way less scary things than Peter. I used to tell myself, if I was Peter, I wouldn't have gotten scared. I just told Jesus, tell me what, let me have the power to get through this storm. I just told Jesus that. And he told me, okay, I'll give you the power to go through the storm. I used to judge Peter so harshly, but then I realized I'm so like him. But when you get to verse number 31, Jesus stretches out his hand, he catches him and said to him, O you of little faith, why did you doubt? So now that I recognize that I'm pretty much like Peter in this situation, or for lesser things, I'm like Peter. I go back on my word to walk over to Jesus through the storm in my life. Why is Jesus holding him to such a high standard? Why does Jesus say, you have little faith? Why did you doubt? I mean, give Peter a break. Is this how you feel about it? What do you think? Give Peter a break. He's just a man trying to walk on water in a storm to go to you, and he got scared. Why did Jesus rebuke him here? Okay, so he's holding Peter to a higher standard as someone who is with him every single day, seeing Jesus do all the things that he does, all the miracles. And he goes, you didn't trust me on this miracle? You've seen me do all kinds of stuff at this point. We just fed 5,000 people with 5 loaves and 2 fish. You don't think I can do this? What else? What do you think? Higher standard? Any other thoughts? Hmm. So maybe it's like this tough love and saying, you talk a big game a lot, Peter. Peter would do that a lot. He would say, Lord, I will never leave you. He tells him later on, I'm ready to go with you to prison and to death. And Peter went with him to neither prison nor death, in that instance at least. Jesus, in this situation, I am ready to go to jail for you, with you. I'm ready to die for you. And then push comes to shove, he takes off, and then he denies him 3 times. He does the exact opposite. He's not willing to do any of it when push comes to shove. So maybe that's Jesus telling him, hey, look, you talk a big game like you have faith, but then when it comes time for you to act on it, you have a small amount of faith. Did I see someone's hand up over here? Someone had their hand up. Yes?
There's times that we fight bigger than what we can actually shoot. Sometimes we think of ourselves as we can do everything because our dad, because our leader does a lot of things. But once we walk the path, like Peter has many a times, we figure out that we need a little bit more studying, a little bit more
Mm-hmm.
Are you going to be successful and go all the way to where Jesus was, or sink in the middle of it, get off the boat? And little faith is more than no faith.
Yeah, that's true. Little faith is more than no faith. And yeah, the idea of give Peter a break is yeah, to give Peter some credit. And this was Peter's pattern. He's the only guy who even asked for this. All the other ones were so terrified. They think they're looking at a ghost, right? And Peter is the one who steps up and says, you know what, I think I can do this, or I want to do this. And that's an amazing quality of him. And again, sometimes he actually tried, and other times he was scared before he even stepped out of the boat. Yes? Mm-hmm. Yeah, people emphasize. Mm-hmm. Yeah, people emphasize that a lot. Make sure to keep your focus on Jesus. Yeah, absolutely. Melissa? Mm-hmm. 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 Yeah, the idea of it's like Jesus is saying this to a child is a really good way to illustrate it. Maggie and I were in a pool recently, and we tried getting Melania to jump in. So we'll catch her, of course, and she hesitates. And when you think about it on a logical level, she can jump in any way she wants with full confidence. There is zero chance she's drowning. I'm there, Maggie's there, I will catch her. And if I don't catch her, I will snatch her up out of the water so fast she will be fine. But she hesitates. And why does she hesitate? Well, she's scared, but she also doesn't fully understand just how capable Maggie is or I am of taking care of her. So she worries, she doubts, she gets scared. And that sounds a lot like me and Jesus. Whenever I doubt in my faith, it's not because Jesus hasn't given me enough reason. No, I'm just not appreciating how capable Jesus is of being able to take care of me. James?
Thinking about little children, the younger they are, the more fearless they are, and they can do anything.
Mm-hmm.
It's amazing to see them just attempt to do things. But as they experience more life, they realize that, well, that didn't work, or I can't do that. And I think the older we get, we understand the rules and the laws of nature, and we should be walking on water. And I think that when he was doing that, he was so enthralled with seeing Jesus and taken back by that. And then, like Janice was saying, he looked around and like, wait a minute, this isn't supposed to be happening. And I think that's human nature. And I think
Yeah.
it's not just a lesson for Peter, but for all of us.
Mm-hmm.
Why it's there.
Yeah, I was talking about this yesterday. Even though in some situations Melania gets a little timid, 99% of the time she has no idea of how dangerous it is. And one day she will, and she'll get more timid. And on an earthly level, good. She will be more wary of danger. But on a spiritual level, there's a reason why Jesus says, unless you become like this little child, you're never going to be able to follow me. You don't have to worry about danger when you're with me. You don't have to worry about it. See, I worry about Melania getting hurt when I'm turned around, when I'm not there, when I walk into the other room real fast, and then I come back, she's standing on the dinner table. That's when I get worried. And that's happened, by the way. That's happened. The good thing about Jesus is that he's never turned around. Jesus never goes into the other room, Jesus has never gone and going, I need to connect to the baby monitor and make sure. No. Jesus is always there. There is no chance that something bad is going to happen to us spiritually. Now, again, we're going to go through hard times in life. No chance Jesus is going to let us sink. No chance Jesus is going to let us die like that. And he's going to go, I just wish I could have helped you. It's not going to happen. So when Jesus says, oh, you have little faith, why did you doubt? He's not expecting too much out of Peter. Peter is expecting too little out of him. And that's exactly what's happening, where Peter, it's not that, again, that he's holding Peter to an impossible standard. It's that Peter doesn't appreciate that Jesus can do the impossible. And he's thinking that Jesus is more like him, instead of him thinking more like Jesus. So when my faith struggles, it's because I'm treating Jesus like he's me, like he has to deal with things that are not possible. No, that's not Jesus. I treat Jesus like he's me. He might be turned around and I'll tumble off of this table and hurt myself. Jesus is not going to be turned around when we're talking about us and him. So Jesus is actually saying, there's no situation where you should ever doubt me, because there's no situation where I will ever fail you. He will never leave us nor forsake us, Hebrews 13:5. Okay, we're just a little bit over time. We can go get snacks, but I love you all so much. Thank you for your time and your attention.